All right, Alan, it's time to talk about Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire is the follow-up to Ghostbusters Afterlife, kind of picking up from the events of that film. And it's a story about, of course, an evil soul from the past is unleashed on New York City, freezing people to death. We saw it in the trailer. What the movie it does is it's balancing the new cast that has been introduced from Ghostbusters Afterlife. Of course, we have the cast of the new and sure to love characters, Phoebe Spengler, Trevor Spengler, played by Finn Wolfhard and McKenna Grace, respectfully. You've got Paul Rudd as Mr. Gruberson, former teacher, now Ghostbusters, who's with Carrie Coon, the mother of Trevor and Phoebe. They are now Ghostbusters, staying at the old Ghostbusters firehouse, funded by Winston. That's Ernie Hudson's character. He's funding all this research into ghosts. Dan Aykroyd, of course, reprising his role as Ray Stantz, who owns a shop that has this is funny, with the character played like Logan Kim. His name is Podcast. I thought Podcast was funny in Afterlife. And they're searching for possessed items. And then that is then funneled to the research being done by Winston and his team. And they go, and even William Atherton is back as Walter Peck. Yes, this man has no dick. If you recall from the very first Ghostbusters. So what it's doing is what Ghostbusters movies do. It's a lot of the same stuff that we've seen. Opening scene with a ghost that freezes people to death, cut to present day where all of our characters are. And this movie has a lot to do. It's the legacy of the OG cast, including, of course, Bill Murray, who comes in around Act 3 as Dr. Peter Venkman. So it's balancing like OG cast, new cast, and then even like not just that, like not only do you have the Ghostbusters, you have the Ghostbusters researchers, which is a whole other team of characters. Lucky, played by Celeste O'Connor. Patton Oswalt plays a librarian, and Kumail Nanjiani is Nadim Razmadi as he's sort of a lazy, aimless, directionless, I don't want to say kid, adult man who's just selling off his grandmother's items just for cash, just so he can get money that he needs. But he plays an integral role in the film later on. Annie Potts is also back as well from the original Ghostbusters. And this, as I say all of these things out loud, listing the cast and everything, it brings up what the big problem with this movie is. It's trying to do too much. There is the overall big story, of course, of this demon spirit from the past that will lay waste to people on Earth. But there are so many B stories. You know, Trevor is 18 now and wants to be treated like an adult and just drive the Ghostbusters car. McKenna Grace, just Phoebe's character, she just wants to be able to be a Ghostbuster, but she's only 15 and she shouldn't be, playing with all of these dangerous toys. There is literally a B story for every character, trying to balance them all up. Paul Rudd's character, Mr. Gruberson, just wants to, is he their dad? Is he not? They're not married, but he's the boyfriend. So that's all awkward. Then you've got Ernie Hudson, as Winston, and his whole research team. That's a whole other thing. There's so much going on in this movie. It felt like a season of the Ghostbusters TV show. Have you ever watched those things where it's just like, hey, what happened in season 1 of Game of Thrones? And then you can actually watch like a 20-minute video that tells you all the main story beats of a season of television. That's what I felt like I was watching. I can't say I didn't enjoy it. It had its moment. It had its moments. But man, I felt like parts of the script were very forced. I felt like they were the B stories, and I do have to give them credit. The fact that they had so many B stories was weird. And then Phoebe, played by McKenna Grace, who someone showed me a picture of what she looks like in real life. She's an attractive woman. I'm not sure what her age is, but I can check right now. She seems like she's 17 years old.
Yeah, I was gonna say old enough to make whatever you're gonna about to say not sound creepy.
I'm not gonna say. First of all, I wasn't gonna say that. I wasn't gonna say that at all. Don't make the assumption, Alan. But it felt like this movie was trying to do so many things. One of the things that I enjoyed my experience seeing the movie is it felt just about the right running time, like around 2 hours. I can double check. It was an hour 55, so right on with the running time. The other thing was the audience was into it. That actually added to the experience. The audience, I mean, when I went to the AMC Burbank 16, someone had a Ghostbusters vehicle there. There was a whole team. I guess there's an LA branch of Ghostbusters fans that all dress up, and they were raising money for charity. If you gave them money, they would give you like a snack or a toy. So they were just doing like a fundraising for charity. And I haven't seen the theater this packed since Dune Part 2 opened. So it felt like, wow, it feels like a summer movie. There was all this excitement in the air, every Ghostbusters t-shirts everywhere. So it was people really were hyped for this. I'm not sure exactly how well this will do at the box office. Critics are split. It's currently 45% on Rotten Tomatoes, but at least on Google, and I'll check, 91% like it. I believe the audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is 86%.
Yeah. I mean, I took my daughter and she was really into it. She really liked this movie.
Well, it's weird. This is the flaw of this film, is trying to do so many things. You've got like bringing in a young cast, right? So you're bringing in like, McKenna, right? And she's as Phoebe, she represents the young. Then you got the OG, which is like, oh, wait, there's Bill Murray. So someone like me who saw Ghostbusters in 1984, I mean, I just got out of high school. Like I was like, and this movie, like, first of all, it's the best movie with an SNL cast ever made.
The first one.
Well, the first Ghostbusters, yes.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters 1984 with an SNL cast, because they would make these SNL movies and they were always sort of mixed. Like, that wasn't very good. They were just sort of capitalizing, or they would take a sketch from SNL and then they would make it into a movie.
Coneheads,
Or It's Pat. It's Pat is actually a movie. Yeah. The other thing that really I could not believe, I did obtain. Yes, I obtained one of the popcorn buckets. I got this at the Regal, $25, comes with popcorn, and it's like it's a prop replica that when you do this, it opens up. So there you go. I can catch and contain ghosts in this thing. Also popcorn, but it's kind of a cool prop replica.
Yeah. Well,
Alan, you got
this is the AMC one. It's got the popcorn catcher on top. It also lights up, so when you put popcorn in it, you turn it on, the light comes up from underneath the popcorn.
Well, that
was much more expensive than yours.
There's $40, $25 for this. $40.
I got popcorn out of it at least.
Well, there you go. But look, I enjoyed myself enough to give this kind of a soft recommendation. I'd say like 6.5, 7. But the flaws really stand out. The other thing that was unusual, we'll talk about this, is Phoebe has a relationship with the ghost character. I forget her name. What was her name?
It was Melody
Melody at the Melody Diner. She starts playing. She's lonely. She goes out. First of all, this is the other thing that was incredibly unrealistic about this film. It's set in New York, and a 15-year-old girl is by herself in a park in New York playing chess at night with a ghost. Okay. And there's a weird sort of, they almost
weird
went
tension
there.
Maybe
a weird sexual tension, which is like, So that's weird. There's like parts that made me cringe, and then parts that really made me smile, like reminded me of like, oh, this is like, and it's not
Let's
other
be
than
clear.
that.
They don't do anything. But the way they look at each other, it's just these subtle, the subtle way they're shot, and the reactions they give to each other leads you to believe that there's maybe some tension there, but it's never acted upon. And I just find that, yeah, Frozen. That's what people are bringing up. They're pulling the Frozen here, where it's kind of like, will they? Are they? Well, we're not going to tell you.
Yeah, we're not going to tell you if there's a ghost lesbian, but it probably is a ghost lesbian. And that was like what I look. So it's like it gets a mild recommendation from me. I really think and I think part of the reason I actually did enjoy it is my expectations were so low. So I can't say I hated the film. It's just, my God, like every subplot and kudos to the filmmaker. It was not Jason Reitman. He's credited as a co-writer on it. The director is Gil Keenan. Gil Kenan. Keenan.
Yeah, Keenan.
So
maybe?
yeah. So yeah, I mean,
it was co-written by Jason Reitman.
Right. Gil and Jason were the credited co-writers. It's fine in that sense. I think the script feels a little forced, especially in the beginning, the banter with the family at the beginning. But they're going after that dragon ghost at the very beginning, the opening action sequence where we come to present day. And so, you know what? I think the audience sort of convinced me to like it, because there were when certain characters came on screen, you heard people clap certain lines. When there's a scene, and this is in the trailer, where Paul Rudd is basically quoting the lines from the Ghostbusters song, but it's in conversation, is very funny. And Paul Rudd's just, he's just oozing charisma and is likable whenever you see him in anything.
Yeah.
What's that?
Sexiest man alive.
Yeah. I mean, God, he's in his 50s. He looks great. Gives me inspiration. But no, look, so mild recommendation from me. If you go in with low expectations, probably going to have a good time. It is leaning so heavily into member berries, and it's like, fine. But the one thing is, it just, other than the sort of ghost lesbian stuff, it wasn't super distracting. It wasn't like, it
wasn't woke.
Yeah, if you're ranking this on best to worst Ghostbusters movies, while I like actually Afterlife because of the introduction of the new characters, and its heart was in the right place because of the finale of Ghostbusters Afterlife, this is trying to please everyone, not quite succeeding, but at least I appreciate it for the effort. So mild recommendation for me. Alan, what did you think?
Yeah, my gut reaction coming out of the theater was basically, I think I kind of go 50-50 on it, because if I were to list out everything I liked about the movie, I could create an equal number list of everything I didn't like about this movie.
Oh, that's a great way of putting it.
Yeah. There were like moments where when I'm thinking about what I was going to say during the stream here, there are moments where I say, well, I kind of liked it, but then I have to always counter it with this. I'll give you the big thing for me as a fan of the original. The reason I like the first Ghostbusters wasn't because of the ghosts or the busting. It was the fact that Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray were in it, because those are my SNL guys. And then it was Rick Moranis and Harold Ramis, which were my SCTV guys. And to have a movie to kind of blend the two worlds together of what I thought was great American comedy at that time, that's why I liked the first Ghostbusters. Dan Aykroyd would kind of be the straight guy. Bill Murray would have his quips. Harold Ramis was just weird. Ernie Hudson was kind of the foundation of it as well. And that's why I liked the original Ghostbusters. Unfortunately, Harold Ramis isn't with us anymore. Bill Murray is in it, barely. He does his Bill Murray thing for maybe less than 2 minutes. And it's, and I liked seeing Dan Aykroyd, but this is not the original Ghostbusters. There's nothing about what I loved about the original Ghostbusters that are in this. At the same time, I kind of appreciate the direction they're going. I think they are trying to get a younger audience. I think The original Ghostbusters were for adults. This is more for the Gen Z, young millennial audience. And so, you know, it's just kind of a mixed bag. This is not the Ghostbusters that I remember, but I can't say that they've ruined Ghostbusters. I think they've kind of found a way to progress it and hand it off to a new generation. And I think that's what it has going for it. But, you know, not a perfect movie. It had its moments. There were scary moments, which is good. So yeah, I'm like you. I give it a very mild recommendation, like a 6.5.
Yeah, and oddly, I thought Kumail Nanjiani was actually pretty good. I was expecting to cringe. He actually was pretty good. I thought.
Yeah.
I thought what?
I felt like he was just being he was trying to be a goofball, and you know, it's kind of like you kind of, I don't know. It's
no,
like
it worked for me.
To me, he was trying to be the new Bill Murray of the crew, and you just can't do that. I was not impressed with his performance.
All right, well, fair enough. So
the other Asian, though, I did like podcast.
Oh yeah, no, I thought podcast was a standout in Afterlife just because just such a weird. And first of all, I even remember the character's name, which is saying something. I had to look up some of the others.
Yeah, I didn't even remember Lucky's name.
Yeah. But no, you know what? It was unexpectedly better than it was better than expected. And we all walked out of the theater. I mean, there were a lot of us. We all walked out of the theater and was like, that wasn't a disaster, which is a weird thing, to say about a movie, right? Like,
I know. I hate to say it.
Suck.
I just feel like movies today in the last 2 years were like, if it doesn't suck, it's great. You know, that's the threshold of it wasn't horrible. That's as good as it gets with movies nowadays.
Right. Well, so there you go. I think it's sort of a mild recommendation from Alan and I. Is that fair?
Yeah, I can't tell you that you shouldn't see this movie. I mean, again,
yeah, what a weird thing to say.
We're counting this review as, you know, yeah, it's good. Blah.
Yeah, but I think it's also because did we need another Ghostbusters movie? And I think after the Ghostbusters Afterlife did what we originally wanted in a Ghostbusters reboot, although I would have been happy. There just for some more nitpicks, the weird ghost lesbian thing, which was weird. I feel like you could have cut out a lot of subplots of this and tightened it a lot. The other thing was there's a conversation with Winston let's see, Winston and why am I spacing and Ray Stantz, where they talk about golden years. We just need to retire. How about you just need to not have that conversation? Why is that even a conversation? I don't care that this is like a conversation that some people feel is necessary in a movie. Let's point out how the characters are old and that didn't work in Indiana Jones. It was awful. They should have spoke about something else, about maybe like legacy, and we have a responsibility to continue to, you know, we can't do it all ourselves. We need more Ghostbusters. You know, we're the thing stopping the spirit realm from destroying us here on Earth. Like, they should have had a larger conversation about, you know, the responsibility as a Ghostbuster, right? So the tone was a little off for me, where it was like moments of seriousness and actual scares mixed with like goofy, offhanded, we sort of destroyed some stuff in the city. We broke some things, but we saved New York. I mean, it got a little,
yeah. I mean, that's in the first movie, in the original Ghostbusters,
right.
And because you had Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis, you know, those discussions of, yeah, you destroyed half the city, was a hilarious conversation. Here it's a bunch of teens who do it, and you know, the tone is just very different. And I mean, ultimately the question is let's assume that there's going to be another Ghostbusters movie. If you remove the original cast now, which I think you can do, does this franchise have any legs behind it?
Well, we'll see. We shall see. Yeah. From Rumble, Joe Kuhn, I enjoyed the movie, but it made me think that the art of great dialogue is dead. I thought the dialogue, especially in that opening scene, felt so forced.
Yeah.
They're all kind of like this banter. It just felt forced. And they weren't like selling it. Like I didn't believe that they believed they were saying it, and was too quippy and not real. But it made me think that the art of great dialogue is dead. The original had some of the greatest lines in movie history. This could only echo those and not give new ones.
Yeah. I mean, weirdly, the original, you know, you have Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis. In a weird way, those characters were already established before the Ghostbusters movie.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. And so when they talk to each other in their way, it just felt familiar because you know these actors, you know their work. You can't really say that about the Spengler family.
Yeah. It's it just
yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Ghostbusters was a showcase for the old SNL cast.
People went to go see the original Ghostbusters in 1984 because they knew Dan Aykroyd from SNL, Bill Murray from SNL. They knew other
Moranis from SCTV and
SCTV and Harold Ramis from SCTV. Like it was like the combining of Canada and America's comedians into.
Yeah,
I loved SCTV.
That's a SCTV. That's a Second City cast right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're very familiar with themselves.
They took the best and then just, you know, and Dan Aykroyd, this was his Ghostbusters, the original, was Dan Aykroyd's passion project. He really believes this stuff, right? Like his character in the shop, that's like, really, you can find plenty of interviews with Dan Aykroyd where he talks about spirit realm stuff. Like, and the one thing interesting about AMC theaters, they actually have a special cocktail made from his Crystal Head vodka, which is Dan Aykroyd's vodka company. So AMC theaters, I forget, it's like a frozen. I can try to find it.
Well, what's interesting is that his dialogue felt natural to him.
Yes,
you know, it wasn't an actor trying to remember lines and recite them. He believed what his character was saying.
Firehouse Frost at MacGuffin's Bar. So there you go. You can get a Firehouse Frost, and you can find them at AMC theaters. So there's the recipe. I think I found the recipe. Let me share screen here. So show this, because I am a sucker for movie themed cocktails. So here it is. Bustin' makes us feel good. And it's they got all the, where is it? I just had it. It was the fight. Here it is. The Crystal Head, Firehouse Frost, Dan Aykroyd's Crystal Head vodka, and an ectoblast of fruity flavors. So there you go. For 21 and over, in order to get that drink, that's what you have to do. Well, that actually makes a lot of sense to me. So there you go.